Hi folks, today I'm going to run through some stuff with the rotaries on the Virpil Throttle. So there are three rotaries marked E1, E2 and E3, and each of them has three functions. First function is a press. Whenever you press the button down, it will activate one function. Let's pull up the software so you can see that. Just going to press E1. So E1 press is 52, that's our physical button set here. And the other functions are a right, so that's 60, and left, rotations respectively. So that gives us three things we can do to this wee yoke, and next thing is, how do we want to use it? Now, I fly mainly DCS, so there's a couple of different functions that would fit nicely with that. Now, for demonstration today, I'm going to show you how to set this up using joystick gremlin. Now, don't get me wrong, you can bind the functions that I'm going to show you inside DCS if you wish, but unfortunately if you do that, you'll be cutting yourself out of using one of the best features that the Virpil Throttle has, and that is the 5-way mode selector. The 5-way mode selector in conjunction with joystick gremlin can give you a vast array of different commands depending on which mode you're actually operating in. Now, this profile I have loaded here is one that was derived from our earlier tutorial where I showed you how to set up the mode selector. So all this stuff has been basically disabled. All the extra bindings that were on the B button set have all been removed, because that's what that shift state was. Out of the box, you'll see a whole bunch of different bindings along this block with, shift state 1. Basically mains mode, and then duplicated down here the same buttons on shift state 2, 3, 4 and 5. I don't want to use this method because it's not as flexible as it could be, so I'm going to go back to the old trusty joystick gremlin. So let's bring up joystick gremlin. Okay, now let's bring up joystick gremlin. Okay, this profile was derived from what I showed you how to make earlier, and it uses the 5 different mode positions that are configured on the earlier tutorial to do different things. Now, as stated previously, mode 1 is the parent mode, and these other modes are derived from it. So that basically means that in mode 1, if I bind this key, for example, this button here, if I don't rebind it in one of the other modes, this functionality will be across all the modes. So it's kind of neat. You put your most common commands in your top mode, your parent mode, and then you customize the other sub modes. So that's kind of a neat feature of joystick gremlin. So today we're looking at the rotaries. So we've got 3 rotaries on the joystick that we can use, and we're going to look at what way we could use them in a particular game. Now today I'm going to show you DCS, and I'm going to show you the cockpit of the MI8. So we'll just bring her over here. Now I'm currently looking at the center console in the MI8, and let's see, we've got a couple of different things we could use. We have 3 rotaries that would correspond nicely to these 3 knobs, which are used to adjust the autopilot. So whenever you've got the autopilot on, like heading and altitude, you can then fiddle with these commands to fine-tune things, or if you're flying in a particular direction, you can then turn this to change the direction slightly. The other thing you could use the rotaries for is the radio control. So unfortunately there are 4 dials but only actual 3 rotaries, but to be honest with you, you're probably not going to use this rotary because it controls these 2 here, and it goes in 25 kilohertz sequences. So you probably could use it for this or this if you wanted to, because you could use these 3 which correspond to this and that particular one there. But for the purpose of demonstration, I'm going to show you these. I'll just basically configure one up and explain a couple of things as I go. So I tried some experimentation. Okay, so we're looking at buttons 44 and 45. Just a note, I actually have configured the push facilities of these rotaries. I'm going to use them for control my NVG, so The middle one, E2 press, is MVG off or on. 41, which is E1, if pressed, will reduce the night vision intensity or stroke brightness. And the E3 being pressed will increase the night vision sensitivity. So that's what I bound on those particular button presses. So I had a wee play around with this earlier on, and I'll just show you something here. Now, I was under the impression I could probably get away with doing something easy. So 44, which is going to correspond to this. So it's going to have anti-clockwise and clockwise direction, and that's going to change our heading. So when I played around with this earlier on, I thought I could get away with doing a simple key binding. So it basically means whenever I rotate one click to the left, anti-clockwise, it'll press left shift, left Windows, and S, which will turn the in-game knob anti-clockwise. Unfortunately, it does not seem to work. I ended up having to use macros, so I'm going to run through how to create a macro and actually record one. So, give me a second. Okay, so let's have a go at recording a macro. Just a brief explanation of what a macro actually is. A macro is a sequence of recorded button presses or joystick movements or whatever you want to do that can be replayed back whenever a specific button is pressed. So the buttons we're playing with right now are 44 and 45. So let's go ahead and clear this because we don't want this single binding. It just doesn't seem to work right. So up in a wee drop down, we're going to go select macro and then just add. This brings up our little interface for recording our macro. Now I'm only interested in keyboard, so that's why that K is actually switched. We're ignoring the other ones, so I could switch to monitoring different things if I want, but I'm not going to because I don't need them. But those selectors are what you would use to determine what you want to actually record. So let's look here. This is our little record button. So when I press this, it's going to start recording. So the key bindings, it's going to correspond to this one I want to do. I'm going to press. And I'll stop recording. So the binding is left shift, left Windows, and then hit S, and then release those three keys. So that's the very, very simplest macro. Just record some keys, you press them, you let them go, then you hit the stop record. So now anytime this button here is actually rotated, that's an anti-clockwise rotation, it's going to fire off this sequence to the game. So I'll just show you that quickly. Remember to activate our profile. Bring over DCS. And I'm going to do anti-clockwise on this. And you can see yourself, it's quite a small rotation that it's actually doing. I'll just do it the opposite direction, clockwise. Bring it back. And that's the very, very sort of basic macro you can do here. Other things you can use in this interface. I mean, so if I say, for example, that was a cock-up or something like that, then what I could do is select it and then remove it. And then remove that if I wanted to. So that's what that button there does, to actually edit this out. I'll just clear that and just re-record. That's a basic macro. Now this is based on just when I press the button or whatever function that is. Currently it's a leftward rotation. You can do conditional stuff on here. There's a tutorial online showing you how to do this. So you can actually have two macros in here. So when the button is pressed, you could have it do one thing, and when the button's released, you could have it do another sequence of macros. I don't actually need to do that today because I'm just using the simplistic stuff. So that's the basic recording of a macro. Okay, so we've got a very, very simple macro, and in the demonstration you saw, it only moves the the rotator a very sort of finite small amount. So it's quite accurate, but if you want to do a big change there, you'd be turning that knob a lot. So there are different types of macros here you can do. So I'll just delete this one, add another one. And I'll show you one that has a bit more extra functionality in it. This little boyo here, this button here that looks like a stopwatch, this allows you to do timings along with the macro. So as well as just pressing the keys like you previously seen, timing information can be used as well, which can determine how long the button's held for and how quickly it's released for. So I'm just going to switch that on and then do another recording, and I'm going to use the same button presses. When I'm going to hold the key down for a little bit longer. Stop that. Okay, as you can see, it's different this time. There's a whole pile of other information. There are timings to go along with how long things are held for and when they're released. Now the first one at the top here is a pause. We sure shit don't need a 31.5 second pause, so we'll just select that, get rid of it. There you go. And that's the basic macro recorded now. So now we have the ability to control how long we do stuff for. Now generally it's only the duration of the presses that are the important ones. So I'm going to change this and average it out. Just set it to say 0.4 for shits and giggles. This other stuff here, the release, I'm going to make this short because I want the release to be pretty quick. I'm going to do the same for this one. Make this quite small, just 0.1 of a second. And I'll do the same on this, so as we've got it nice, it operates nice and quickly. There we go. So 0.1 of a second for these to be taken, the amount of time taken for these both to be held down, and then this is the duration that the command's going to run for, which is 0.4 of a second. Okie dokie. Let's just activate this. So I'm doing this on the left turn, so the left turn is going to be a bit funky looking this time. So turn it to the right, standard. You can see each of these little movements is a single click. Now I'm going to do one click left. Notice that that is vastly longer. It's not just one tiny little increment. I mean, you can see yourself, that is a small increment, very precise. Now when I do the left one, it moves a fair bit more, and that is basically controlled by this. This is basically how long the button is going to be held for and transmitted to the function in whatever game you happen to be playing. So for this DCS is going to each click is going to fire off a 0.4 of a second. Now let's muck around with this and just show you what differences this can make. I go in there, let's change this to something stupid like, I don't know, 0.8. That's twice what it currently is. Activate the profile. And as before, just a normal right clockwise turn, small increments. Let's do the left now. And you can see it's quite big. So that is how you can fiddle around with the amount of time that something is being transmitted for. You just monkey around generally with the one before the release key kicks in, and that'll give you it. So we had it at 0.4. Let's try, I don't know, say 0.2. Take it the other way around. See how that looks. As before, standard right, just clockwise. Now do the left. Yeah, it's a little bit more. Yeah, oh, it's a hell of a lot more actually. When you look at it, it's about 2 or 3 times. So it's up to you. I mean, you can fiddle around with the timings, for example, to get the amount of swing or deflection that whatever particular command works with. Now, this is a analog dial we're playing with here. So it has infinite amount of positions, rotations, left, right, or whatever. These ones here for the radio, they're individual click positions. So most likely you would want to use the standard macro for the radio because you just want incremental clicks. And for like analog gauge, you've got there that dial. This one here might be more suitable. And like I say, it's that one there, the middle one before you start releasing the keys, is how long it's actually going to be pressed for, and that will determine the amount of actual rotation you're going to get on that particular knob. So that's how to use the rotaries with joystick gremlin to configure knobs in your cockpit. And that's about it, really. I mean, I'm configuring this on this mode. I started naming these modes. You could probably see they were just called mode 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5, whatever before. So mode 1 for me is going to be Flaming Cliffs 3. Mode 2 for the K50. Mode 3 is for the MI8. Just a wee final note. There's something I want to show you here, just in case this ever gets in your way. Right now, I've renamed these modes. I'm trying to put normal names in them so I know what they are. I could probably remove the mode board from it altogether, but I thought I'd leave it in. Just be aware that if you mess around, if you go to manage modes, bring this over so you can see it. If I were to go and rename this, for example, mode 2, I'm going to rename it something else like test. Let's close that down. If I go down here to mode 1, this is the rotaries here. I've showed you this before in another tutorial. If I go to the rotary, and this rotary 51 is position 2 of the mode selector, which would basically say, right, go from mode 1, go into now mode 2, that this will be blanked. And the reason why it's blanked is because we've renamed it and it doesn't what it should be pointing to. So I need to go and change that to test. I would also need to go into mode 3 and change it to point backward. So as it, whenever I swing my rotaries around, it will actually switch the modes correctly. Just be aware of that. That could be an issue if you do, for example, start renaming these things and you've already programmed in the bindings, the mode switchings. It will just mean that whenever you rotate it around, you'll wonder why it's not working, and it's because of that. So just be aware of that little quirk. Okay, folks. Hope this helps.